Now, there is good news here, though, because as the left puts on this performance about the lack of politics, the nonpartisan people, the people who are independent, for the actual undecided voters, Trump is doing great. For the actual undecided voters, issue by issue, everything stacks against Joe Biden. A new study was released last week that showed 66 to 70% of likely voters in 5 battleground states support school choice, publicly funded school choice. School choice is a huge winning issue for Republicans. We should talk about it all the time because Joe Biden totally opposes it. Donald Trump totally supports it. This is from the Manhattan Institute, which commissioned this survey, added it on to a poll from Rasmussen. This was conducted in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina, all these battleground states. Joe Biden has a very, very negative view of school choice.
And so the point is, if I'm president, Betsy DeVos's whole notion from charter schools to this are gone.
All gone. I actually asked Secretary DeVos about this when she came on the Verdict podcast with me and Senator Cruz. You can check out that episode as well. Now, why are Democrats doing this? It's so unpopular. They're doing this because they're in bed with the teachers' unions. The teachers' unions are part of their constituency. They, in some parts, own the Democratic Party, so they're not allowed to support school choice, even though 70% of people support it. Trump and the Republicans should run hard on this. There's another big issue, too. There's another big issue that the Republicans, and Trump in particular, ran on in 2016. And he hasn't talked about it as much in 2020, but it's a huge winning issue. And the Democrats are completely wrong on it. It is not working at all. It does involve security. It does involve protection. The left, they want to pretend that people are on their side with this issue, but they're not. That issue is immigration. Washington Post just comes out. They say, Trump's refugee ceiling is bad for everyone but bigots. Here we go. Deplorable, irredeemable, dregs of society. That's what you are if you oppose taking in more and more immigrants into this country. Now, what President Trump has said is that he's going to reduce the number of immigrants who come into the country. Not by a lot, just by very little. He said, as a matter of the refugee policy, in the new fiscal year, 15,000 refugees will come into the country. 15,000 seems pretty nice. Now, before that, under the Obama administration, you saw a cap at about 96,000. But why would we be taking in all of these refugees when there has been relative peace all around the globe? We've been pulling out of these wars. One of the arguments for taking in refugees is, look, we're involved in these wars, and because of that, we have a responsibility to these local populations, so we're going to take them in. Whether or not you agree with that argument, that was the argument. Now we're saying, okay, we're still going to take in 15,000. We're just not going to take in, 100,000. America takes in more immigrants, legal as well as illegal, than any country on earth. By a long shot, we're talking about like 2 million per year. The last 60 years has been the largest migration from one place to another, or from multiple places to another, in the history of civilization. We've never seen a larger migration than we have into the United States over the past 60 years. And people, justifiably, think maybe that's a little bit too much. Not because we don't like people around the world, but just because it's very difficult to assimilate that many people. We have the largest foreign-born percentage of the population that we've had since the 1890s. And at this time, we're being told we have to discourage assimilation. Well, if you don't have a common culture, if you don't have a common language, if you don't have common practices, then you don't have a country, right? Then you don't have a common country, and that's what we're seeing coming apart at the seams. It's not really the immigrants' fault necessarily. It's the policies and the people who are using immigration policy to try to further weaken the country because they think the country is rotten and evil and no good, such as the people who support, for instance, the 1619 Project view of America, or the people who believe that America is hopelessly bigoted, or the people who want to destroy our system of law and order. Any of those people. Most Americans, though, want to reduce immigration levels. There was a survey that came out a couple years ago that showed that Americans want to reduce immigration dramatically by 60% or so. And this is a majority of Americans who want to do it, not just Republicans. It cuts into Democrats as well. That's a big winner. We were told, when Trump came down that escalator in 2015, remember, we were told, this guy, there's no way this guy's going to win. He just said that illegal immigration might not be a great thing. He called illegal immigrants criminals and rapists and murderers. There's no way. He's never going to win a Hispanic vote, and he's certainly never going to win. And what was so funny is you had a lot of Hispanic voters saying like, yep, yeah, that's true. Those drug cartels, man, they're pretty bad. They cross the border a whole lot. We don't like them. We're very against them. Of course, because people all agree with it. Not all of them, but most people agree with this. But political correctness means they're not allowed to say it out loud. So then when someone comes in, such as a Trump, and says what they're thinking, they might criticize him in public, but they will vote for him. That's a great issue for Republicans. School choice, abortion, both going in our favor. Or school choice, rather, immigration, both going in our favor. Abortion, actually, though, is as well. And Joe Biden has now gone completely out in the open on abortion. There used to be a view among the allegedly devout Catholics in this country who supported abortion. They obviously weren't particularly devout Catholics, but they would support abortion, and they would justify it to themselves and to the public by saying, look, I am personally very against killing all these babies. But politically, it is a right. It's a constitutional right. You can see it right there in the constitutional text, right below the penumbras and right above the emanations. It's in invisible ink, but you can see it. It's right there. It's right there. And so therefore, we have to have legal abortion. Well, they're not even pretending that anymore. Now, with the possible shift in the court to being more conservative with the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett, there's a possibility, I don't think it's a very high possibility, but there's a possibility that Roe v. Wade gets overturned. So Joe Biden was asked at this town hall the other night, what will you do if it gets overturned? He said, well, no more of this. Abortion should be safe and rare. Abortion, it's constitutional even though I oppose it. He says he would make Roe v. Wade the law of the land.
Number one, we don't know exactly what she will do, although the expectation is that she may very well move to overrule Roe. But the only responsible response to that would be to pass legislation making Roe the law of the land. That's what I would do.
That's what he would do. He would make it the law of the land. It was so interesting the way this woman asked the question, too. He was asked, right, just by constituents in the town hall. And when the woman wanted to ask about abortion, obviously that was what the whole question was about. That's what Biden's whole answer is about. She couldn't bring herself to actually use the term abortion.
I knew whenever I was graduating high school and entering college that I wanted to obtain my degree and start a career before starting a family. Having access to birth control and safe reproductive health care was imperative in making that true for me. So considering the new Supreme Court nomination of Amy Coney Barrett, what are your particular plans to protect women's reproductive rights in the U.S.?
Just as a pure matter of semantics, abortion is not reproductive rights. It's the opposite of reproductive rights. It does the opposite of reproduction, right? There's no way you can use the term reproduction to refer to abortion. Those are opposite things. But she can't bring herself to say it. She can't bring herself to say it because it's obviously such a ghastly thing. And it's such a ghastly thing. It's so obviously wrong that even its most ardent supporters can't say the name. Abortion. Abortion. What is abortion? Even abortion is a clinical term. Killing a baby. They can't say it, even though they support it. But Joe Biden is taking a pretty extreme view of it. He's saying, okay, look, maybe it's not a constitutional right, but I would pass a law. Now, passing a law for abortion, I guess, is more constitutionally legitimate than just pretending that it's in some clause of the Constitution. But does Joe Biden really think this is going to help him win Pennsylvania? Help him win Wisconsin, Carolina? I don't think so. I hope you enjoyed that short segment from the Michael Knowles Show. Be sure to check out the full episode linked in the description or download the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.